So today evening I will be discussing about the role of SBRT in head neck cancer. Also, there are data which are mostly retrospective analysis, phase one, phase two studies, but there is no actually robust data. So I will try to sum up all the data and try to answer many questions like do we really do need to do SBRT in head neck cancer? Why we should need to do it? If we have opted to do SBRT in head neck cancer, then how to do it? So before I start, I like to uh, right side now. So before I start, I will like to present one case which recently presented to us. This is a 49-year-old gentleman who presented to us in 2018, and he has a carcinoma base of tongue along with a nodal disease. Uh, Stage is T2N1 disease. So we have given concurrent chemoradiation, which completed in 2018 August, sorry October. Then patient remained NED for the next 2 years. Recently, the patient presented in the month of September with a pain in neck and on clinical palpation, there is around 1.5 centimeter node in the left level 2. So on further evaluation, the PET has been done, MR has been done. There is only a nodal site at level 2 which is there and no other site of uptake. And the patient has went to the surgeon think that because of the disease he is not able to give the negative margin, so surgeon referred the patient to the medical oncologist to give 2 to 3 cycles of chemotherapy, and if the disease regresses he will assess again for surgery. So medical oncologists as usual they upfront give 3 cycles of chemotherapy, taxane based, but unfortunately, instead of decreasing the disease, the node has increased in size. From the 2.3 centimeter, it has increased to 2.7 centimeter. So, what are the options left for treating such patient? Do we really need to give a long course of treatment for this patient who received chemotherapy and it is not responding to the treatment, or we should give a treatment which can gives you a same control with less amount of toxicity? So we'll try to find out the answer of these questions over the next 45 to 50 minutes. So moving on to the role of SBRT in head neck cancer, we all know that locally advanced head neck cancer, even with the best of treatment, surgery, radiation, chemo, with all sort of treatment, there is a high chance of local regional failure, which is to the tune of 40 to 50%. And majority of these patients, almost half of the patient will die of the progression of the disease. But importantly, if this patient develops locoregional recurrence, if the patient underwent surgery, he has the best possible outcome. But what happens if the patient is unfit for surgery, like the patient I have discussed initially? So the treatment option remain radiation, systemic therapy to continue chemotherapy, or a best supportive care. If you take all these three options, it is the radiation which gives you a chances of best control, best local control, and can improve your survival along with the quality of life, along with the improved quality of life. With chemotherapy, the treatment remains palliative with a median survival of only 5 to 8 months. So these patients should be offered re-radiation. But what form of re-radiation? As the patient has already received radiation, so we have to think about what should be the optimal gap, what should the gap from the initial treatment, what amount of dose we can again give, depending on how he tolerated the first treatment, what amount of toxicity still is with the patient, and what optimal imaging should be used. The target delineation is different. What technique should be used? Either it should be treated with brachytherapy, conformal treatment like IMRT, VMAT with the photons, protons, or SBRT. I will be focusing more on the uh, SBRT treatment. So with SBRT, we all know that SBRT help to give a higher dose in less number of fraction. So it has a better chance of controlling the disease. By controlling the disease, it is possible that you preserve the quality of life, and it is radiobiologically proven as we have already seen in lung cancer, prostate cancer, and with SPRT there is sharp follow dose. So we are able to better spare the critical structure as compared to the other modality of treatment. But Importantly, if the patient has been taken up for any treatment, whether it is surgery, chemo, radiation, we have to look at the patient as a whole, not what radiation, what amount of radiation, what chemotherapy. We have to think whether the patient is nutritionally fit. Is he able to take from? Is he feeding tube dependent? What are the comorbidities? What is the sequelae of previous treatment? Is he able to speech? Speeches and swallowing function are normal, or what is the pain, disease, and overall quality of life, and so on and so forth. So these are the factor which needs to be taken care of while you are selecting the patient for whatsoever the treatment you are deciding. So importantly, you need to optimize your treatment depending on the risks versus benefit. You have to see what are the risks. If you give certain treatment, what are the morbidity related with the treatment, what is the toxicity related with that treatment, and actually after giving that treatment, what is the outcome of the patient? Are you able to control the disease? Are you able to improve the quality of life? These are the important and the pertinent question which needs to be answered before taking any patient for any sort of treatment. So before discussing the evidence of SBRT, I'd like to discuss this important paper which gives you an idea if the patient has recurrent disease, what sort of outcome he is going to have, with what amount of which, with the amount which the treatment he is receiving. So if they have classified the patient into three broad groups, RPA1, RPA2, RPA3. If the patient is RPA1, means if he is having more than 2 years treatment free interval, and the patient will undergo surgery, then the best chances of survival and the overall survival at 2 years is around 60%. But if the patient having treatment interval of more than 2 years and there is treatment interval of more than 2 years and there is an organ dysfunction and the patient do not is not able to undergo surgery, then the chances of survival decrease from 60% to 40%. And the treatment free interval is less than 2 years, organ dysfunction, then the median survival decrease, or 2 year survival decrease to around 16%. So the important thing to note from this, if the patient is RPA class 2 and RPA class 3, if you see the median survival is to the tune of 8 to 12 months or 14 months. So is it really justified to give a long course of treatment to this group of patients who are going to live only for 8 to 12 or 14 months, bringing the patient again to the hospital for 2 months and giving the toxicity to the tune of 40 to 80%. So we have to think whether we can give the same amount of control with less amount of toxicity and giving the short treatment of time. So in turn, we can increase the overall quality of life. Same group, same group later updated and find out few factors which affect the outcome of the patient. Although these are the factors which has been taken from the conventional fractionation radiation, but this help to predict what is the outcome of this group of patients. This is important, but another important finding which is there in the study, if you see, even after re-radiation, the risk of progression or death is approximately 4 times than the risk of radiation-related toxicity. So actually, we need a treatment so that we can increase the local control, so that we can improve the quality of life. Because this is the one which is going to deteriorate the quality of life more as compared to toxicity. Although severe late toxicity is also important, but there is a scope to improve the control so that we can improve the quality of life. So moving on to the SBRT. So I will try to answer these important and pertinent questions. Why SBRT? Why not? When not? And if then, how to do it? And I will be discussing them under the following headings. Indications, what are the indications, what evidence we have, if we select the patient, what the fractionation we should use, how to delineate the target, what are the constraints for the normal structure, and what is the toxicity profile. So, so why SBRT? As we all know that SBRT is highly conformal, gives you sharp follow-up dose, and the treatment is completed within 3 to 5 fractions, means the entire treatment can be completed within 2 weeks. And The role of SBRT is already established in lung, prostate. I need not to elaborate the indications of SBRT, but the role is already established in the different malignancies. And radiobiologically superiority has been of the SBRT has been established because at a dose which is higher than 8 grade, the vascular damage comes in and which increases the chances of control. Although in head and neck cancer the data is less, there is a paucity of data, but still we have data with which we can take out some inferences. This is one of the important slide. This is the data which I have taken from the Virgo et al. People who have a lot of work in re-radiation in head and neck cancer with SBRT. So importantly, if you see the data of extreme trial in which chemotherapy has been tried, you see the grade 3 toxicity to the tune of approximately 80% overall grade 3 toxicity. And the RTOG trial in which re-radiation has been used, although in the RTOG 911 2D technique was used and RTOG 906 few patient has been treated with 3D CRT, still the toxicity is to the tune of 80 to 85%. Although if you see the recent IMRT data, the toxicity grade 3 and above toxicity is to the tune of 40%. But if you see the data of SBRT with cetuximab, the toxicity is only 12 to 30%. It's not only the toxicity which is important. What is the survival of the patient in terms of progression free and overall? If you compare the data of SBRT with the uh, re-radiation RTOG trial, the progression free survival is somewhat same or better, but the overall survival is almost the same. So with SBRT, we are able to give the same survival, but with a lesser toxicity and in a shorter duration of time, which is more important in a patient which is going to live for the next 12 to 18 months. So why I am talking about SBRT? Because in head neck cancer, the disease, the failure is mostly localized or loco-regional. And once the disease is there, it is definitely going to impact the quality of life. If you're able to control the disease, you are able to improve the quality of life. Other than brain, head neck is one of the area where we have good immobilization, although swallowing and there are few other issues, but we have certainly a good immobilization device. And the tumors which are there in the head neck, these are mostly a radiosensitive tumors, and the recurrences are mostly because this is a head neck, mucosal area, carotid. These are mostly with the tumors are mostly related to the critical structure. So we need a more sharp follow-up dose so that we can better spare these critical structures because these structures have already received radiation previously, and the importance comes in especially in cases of re-radiation setting. But the recurrences are often large, more than 50 cc. To treat such a large recurrence with SBRT, there is high chances that you are going to give more toxicity rather than improving a quality of life. And in cases of primary, if you have to treat nodal, that large volume become large. You cannot treat such a large volume with SBRT. And another important, the recurrences which are there are actually some recurrences are there which are multifocal, which you cannot, the multifocality cannot even pick up on the PET. So if you treat a disease which you are seeing on the scan, you might end up giving marginal failure. So the proper assessment of the patient is most important. And the difficulties like swelling, if you have to take into account the swelling movement, give the PTV margin, the and volume become large. So these are the areas where SBRT need to be done with a caution. So treatment indication. The indication of SBRT in head neck has been broadly classified into four areas: recurrent or residual tumor or a second primary tumor. In which the SBRT has been tried mostly with a curative intent, but if the adequate dose has not been able to give, then the palliative intent has been also been tried. Another important indication is boost. Especially the boost has been tried in cases of nasopharynx in which the tumor and the critical structure are very close, probably a margin of 1 to 2 millimeters. So with a conventional fractionation, you are not able to give the adequate dose which is needed to control the disease. So people have tried to give boost with a SBRT followed which after conventional fractionation deletion so that they can have a good control. Another important is primary head neck cancer, but this has been tried in the patient who are elderly, who are not fit for treatment. And the last indication is metastatic, mostly oligometastatic, like nodal disease or somewhere else, that SBRT has a role. So we'll be discussing these one by one. What are the evidences and what are the outcomes? So moving on to the another, when SBRT should be used and how to select your patient. So it is most important to properly select your patient. If you do not properly select your patient, you might end up giving more failures, more toxicity. So as such, for SBRT in head neck, there is no upper age limit, but the patient should be a good performance status and the minimum treatment free interval for treating a case with SBRT should be 6 months between the previous RT and the current radiation. Pathological confirmation, presence of symptom, if it is there, it is not a contraindication. You can treat the patient with SBRT. Regarding the treatment side, SBRT has been used in treating recurrent primary site with a volume of 25 to 30 cc, nodal disease up to 50 cc. People have tried, but more than 50 cc has been associated with more toxic. And metastasis, it depends on how many number of lesions side. Another important selection criteria is the anatomical region where the disease is. Mostly the SBRT has been used in nasopharynx, oropharynx, parotid, paranasal sinus, mostly in the people have also used SBRT in larynx and hypopharynx, but because of the tubular structures, because of the chances of high toxicity, probably this side should be fractionated treatment should be used. Why I am saying this? Because in 2016, Ling et al. Has tried to find out the toxicity of SBRT in recurrent head and neck cancer. And he reported the acute toxicity to the tune of 11%, grade 3 and above, and late toxicity to the tune of around approximately 19%. But when he separated this toxicity based on the site, he find out that 50% of the grade 3 acute and late toxicity are associated with larynx and hypopharynx as compared to 6 to 20% of other site. So in this side, probably a more fractionated treatment is much better as giving on the other hand, giving SBRT. You can see in the image there is a larynx cross grade 3 laryngeal edema, necrosis of the cartilage. So a caution should be used while using SBRT in these sites. These are the relative contraindication in this. Probably SBRT should not be used, or probably more fractionated treatment should be used because there is high risk of toxicity when you use SBRT in these indications. So moving on to the SBRT for the radiation. There are few pertinent questions which need to be discussed case by case basis while you select SBRT for re-radiation. The first question is, can this patient be surgically resectable with functional acceptable outcome? If yes, then patient should be offered surgery first. If not, then the outcome will be, we have already discussed in many paper, then the outcome should be 2 year survival is 40 or 20%. So better give a short course of treatment and the same amount of local control. Another important question is the need to be answered is whether this disease is radio resistant. The, probably an idea of whether this is radio resistant and the disease is radio resistant or not comes from the time since completion of RT. If the treatment free interval is small, means the disease is somewhat radio resistant because even after giving radical dose of radiation, the disease has come back so early. And another is if the patient has marginal failure or infield failure, means the failure is within the infield. But even after giving the radical dose of radiation, the disease failed within the area where we have given the maximum doses. That it means that this is the disease which is less likely to even respond to the conventional fractionation radiation which the patient has initially received. Means this disease is radio resistant. This needs probably a higher dose per fraction so that a radio resistant part can be overcome. Another important question, can are we able to give the adequate dose which is required to give a control to the patient, adequate disease control? So if the patient has small disease-free interval time, you are not able to give a doses probably more than 60 gray, which is needed to control the disease, then the treatment mostly become palliative. So in such a cases, the SBRT can give you a high dose in small number of fraction and with a sharp follow-up dose so that you can able to achieve whatever the tolerance of the critical structure. And most importantly, you have to think of re-radiation complication. And what are these complications? Are these acceptable? Like if the difference is close to your solid structure or close to the carotid, there is an increased risk of hemorrhage, or close to the spinal cord, there is an increased risk of myelitis or mandibular hospitalization. So these are all important and pertinent questions. If you discuss case by case cases, you are better able to select the patient for SBRT. So moving on to the evidence, this is the first phase one trial published in 2009, which try to find out what is the optimal doses which needs to be given in SBRT, especially in the. So Hiron et al. Has escalated the dose from 5 gray per fraction to 8.8 gray per fraction to a total dose of 44 gray. With this dose, there is no grade 3 port toxicity, and author concluded that SBRT in recurrent head and neck cancer, a dose up to 44 gray is safe without any dose limiting toxicity. The same group has updated the data in 2012, and importantly, they find out that if you give a dose of more than 35 gray as compared to the less than 35 gray, the patient who receive more than 35 gray do better. And also there are some reports addition of cetuximab improve the outcome. So they have compared the initial data with a patient who has been treated with concurrent cetuximab, and they find that addition of concurrent cetuximab in with SBRT improved the median from 14.8 to 24.5 months. Another important paper from University of Pennsylvania, in which they try to find out the correlation of dose and tumor volume. And what they find out, the patient who receive a dose to the tune of 40 to 50 gray do significantly better as compared to the patient who receive a dose below 36 gray. And the patient who has tumor volume less than 25 cc do significantly better as compared to the patient who have uh, tumor volume of more than 25 cc, which is very well depicted in the survival curve. And another important thing which comes out from their data is if the dose is more than 35 gray, there is a clear dose response curve. There is an improvement in local control. You can see from this dose wash, a dose of 44 gray and a volume of 25 cc, good dose response relationship. And the clear dose response relationship between 35 to 40 gray, especially for the large tumor which are more than 25 cc. So they recommend a minimum dose of 40 gray if the tumor is less than 25 cc and more than 25 cc a dose of 44 gray. Another phase 2 study of SBRT with cetuximab in which 8 gray into 5 fraction to a volume of 25 cc versus 8.8 44 gray in 5 sessions to a volume of more than 25. Cetuximab has been started a week prior, then concurrently, and a week after. And they clearly, the study clearly showed there is a benefit of adding cetuximab along with radiation, along with SBRT, and it improves the outcome in this group of patients. Another study, which is published in 2013, in which recurrent head and neck cancer was treated with a dose of 36 gray in 6 fraction, has shown that there is a 1 year survival is to the tune of 47%, and the complete response and the partial response, the overall response rate is to the tune of nearly 70%. The toxicity is mainly related to cetuximab. Cutaneous toxicity is 10%. Rest of the toxicity is probably 5 to 7%. This is long-term data from Milan Italy group in which they have analyzed the outcome of the patient who has been treated with conventional vaccination, SBRT. Importantly, they have shown a long-term control rate, but the important finding which comes from the study that the patient who has organ dysfunction and they have squamous histology and the re-radiation volume more than 36, these patients are likely to do poorer whether you do conventional vaccination or SBRT. So in this paper, they have compared the outcome from the SBRT with the conventional fractionation reduction IMRT. And the outcome of the SBRT group is inferior as compared to IMRT. Right? The author clearly says the doses which has been used for treating a recurrent tumor is less as compared to the study which has clearly shown the dose which is needed to have a good dose response correlation is minimum of 35 gray. In this study, whatever the number of patients has been treated with a dose of 30 gray in 5 fractions. So it is not right to have a comparison of IMRT with SBRT in this group of patients. Another study, this also clearly shows the volume is less, then the chances of having control is better. So to summarize that these are the study which has been published for recurrent or second primary head and neck cancer. So to summarize the study which has been done, mostly these are phase 1, phase 2 or retrospective study. Importantly, if the patient has been treated, the local control is to the tune of 50 to 60% at 1 year and 2 to 3 years, 30 to 32% overall in all the studies, and the overall survival remains at 1 to 2 years, 40 to 60%. And the grade 3 toxicity, which has been much talked about even with IMRT, is to the tune of 0 to 10%. So the data which we have discussed, we find out the control rate is almost same or maybe little bit better as compared to the conventional IMRT. So we need to find out what the optimal volume we should treat with a SBRT. So these are the three papers which I have already discussed. They clearly gives us an idea that a dose up to probably 35 or less than 36 is good enough, which can be treated with SBRT with acceptable toxicity. And what fractionation and what dose? Probably a dose of 40 to 44 gray, which certainly more than 35 gray, which clearly show dose response curve. So this dosage should be used in especially in head and neck cancer SBRT. And important point is what should be the duration, which is looked by Virgo et al. In their study, and they find that the overall treatment time, if it is more than 14 days, it is detrimental. So mostly the treatment should be completed within 14 days. So to summarize the data in re-radiation setting of head and neck cancer, although there is no phase 3 randomized data, but this data gives you some insight how to treat this patient, what is the likely outcome. But certainly we need a phase 3 trial to better characterize these points which we have discussed. So moving on to the another indication, SBRT as a boost. As I already discussed, the SBRT as a boost has been mostly tried in carcinoma of nasopharynx, in which the tumor is and the critical structure are very close. So it has been tried, but in SBRT as a boost, you have to think of late complication because you are giving high dose per fraction and the tumor are very close to the critical structures. And these should be limited probably for the patient for limited volume disease, appropriate treatment volume, and what is the optimal dose. Certainly, we don't have actual data to say what needs to be done in this group of patients. Maybe you can use some volume using different PET imaging and you can do a trial, but we don't have actually much data. There are few studies which has been published, 4 or 5 studies, and if you see, mostly the patient has been treated initially with a dose of 60 to 70 gray, and the boost has been given with 7 to 15 gray in a single 1 to 3 fraction. But all the studies have shown excellent local control and the survival of the tune of 75 to 80%. Although there are few grade 3 toxicity to the tune of 5 to 7%. So moving on to the third indication, SBRT as a primary modality has been used because the growing age of population, there is increasing incidence in elderly patients. Although if the patient is fit, good performance status, the standard treatment should be offered. But what if the patient has multiple comorbidities, poor performance status, then mostly these are the patients who has been treated with palliative. But SBRT gives us an attractive option because with the same less number of fraction, we are able to give a good dose so that we can have a better local control as compared to the doses which we give in a palliative treatment. Although limitations we have, whatever the study we have, these are small, retrospective. although there is a patient selection bias, short follow-up, most of the series has been used, the doses has been used to the tune of 35 to 40 gray and 3 fraction, and they have shown adequate local control with effective toxicity. But we, what is the optimal dose for the highest hepatic ratio is still uncertain. We don't know what amount of dose we can give, up to what extent we can escalate the dose in this group of patients. But if you see the data, this is one of the studies presented last year as to in which 66 unfit patients, medically unfit patient has been treated with SBRT primary modality. Whatever the gross disease, they have treated with a dose of 40 gray with a PTV doses of 30 gray. And the treatment was delivered bi-weekly. They have shown an excellent local control of 68% at 1 year, and median follow-up time is 15 months. But still, the main problem is 21 patients have developed, almost one third of the patient developed in-field failure, and four patients develop marginal failure. So still we do not know how much dose needs to be escalated so that we decrease this in-field failure. Although the regional and distal control was good at 73 and 76%, and only two patients out of 66 patients has developed grade toxicity, and none of the patients developed grade 4 or 5 toxicity. There are few other studies which uses SBRTs, especially in the elderly patient. And these are five studies which has been published. To summarize this study, these are five studies, 64 patients overall, local control reported is to the tune of 70 to 85%, overall survival is 60 to 85%, and the response rate varies from 40 to 50%. With the addition of treatment, one study has shown there is improvement of quality of life, but the main pattern of failure is local regional. And one study has tried continuous and it is well tolerated. So we still need more data so that we SBIT can be used, and we need to understand more what we need to take so that we can have more control and decrease the infiltration local regional failure. So these are the four indications which we have discussed. Now moving on to if the patient is selected for SBRT, then what mode, what simulation, what scans, and what treatment planning we need to be done. We'll discuss one by one. So the most important step is you have to optimally select your patient. You have to optimally risk outcome versus toxicity and what are the challenges which are going to be there during treatment. And you need to be think all these points and also need to be discussed with the patient because a patient understanding patient cooperation is must for delivering a such high dose treatment safely. Moving on to the immobilization. As with immobilization for SBRT or SRS, the main prerequisite you need a immobilization which should have an accuracy of less than a millimeter. For head neck SBRT, normally a head neck cast with supine neck neutral position. There are other immobilization devices also like right dog or if the lesion is located in the skull base, whatever you use, the accuracy should be as good as less than 1 millimeter. For imaging, you need to take a scan, RT-PCR scan, which should be a slice thickness of 1 to 1.5 millimeter minimum, and intravenous contrast should be used while using the planning. Although in the CyberKnife we use non-contrast scan and we use contrast scan as a second scan. For MRI, we need T1, T2 post-contrast images. We need 3D sequence of the images so that we are able to delineate the structure using 3D sequences, all the axial, coronal, and sagittal section. Slice thickness of MRI should be 1 to 2 millimeter with remote, and if possible, the MRI should be taken in position.